here. It's a real honor. Thank you very much, and thanks for bringing that awesome movie to us. And I want to officially announce, they told me beforehand, that movie will be opening to the public on June 28th at the Alamo Drafthouse in Kansas City. Hopefully you can make it to that. Now, one of the main questions I had during the movie, being a musician, I'm in many bands, and one of them is called the Dead Girls. So I have personally felt the trauma of having a name that deals with death and the kind of things that you can run into. And I think the end of it kind of answered the question for me, but I want to hear what you have to say. If you could go back and do it differently, and after seeing how everything worked out for you, would you change the name, or do you think that it was all, kind of meant to be?
Well, if we were to go back, it would probably be the same thing, because David would be there. And David was just, he was committed to the concept of death and the music that we wrote, performed, and he was really committed. I mean, it's only fitting that this movie should be shown in a building like this where it's committed to art, because that's what David was really all about. He was all about, the art, the artistic quality of the music, and where rock and roll was going. And he was really more interested in that than, and we were so young, we really believed that we could get a record deal with any label. So we were just young, and we just felt that, we had time to do that. And David, most of all, had this conviction.
Pretty much the same thing, because, if we could go back and change time, if we will, I don't think it would change, because, like you said, David would still be there. And me and Bob would be like, okay, man, well, we'll make concessions, we'll change the name, Clive Davis wants to sign us. And like you said, David would still be there, and David would say the same thing that he said in the movie.
And that sort of leads me into my next question, which I've always thought of punk rock. I'm a huge punk fan, and I've always thought of it more as a way of thinking rather than a genre of music. Like, a lot of people will come out and say, I'm in a punk band, we're fast and we have loud guitars, but I've always thought of it more as a way of thinking outside the box and, outside of the mainstream, outside of what's normal. How do you feel when people say that you invented punk, or that you were like one of the first punk bands?
Well, the best way I can put it is, a well-known guitar player from Memphis told us, he says, you know what, he says, and this is very true, he said, what makes your story so great is that you guys were doing this and you had no idea that you were doing this, and he's right about that. You see, in the 70s when we were making this music, if you said punk to someone, that was fighting words. You got a bloody nose, especially in Detroit. So the phrase punk music was not even mentioned. We just wanted to be like, MC5, Grand Funk Railroad, Alice Cooper, The Who. We wanted to be like all those great bands that we were tuning into in Detroit. And I think what made us kind of more a little louder and aggressive, as Dennis said in the movie, is that, just we wouldn't be denied. And we just suffered so much rejection. We suffered rejection from the black community because at the time, you were expected to play the Motown, the Isley Brothers, or Earth, Wind and Fire, or, what was really popular at the time. And the white community of Michigan, we had a lot of friends, like in Grosse Pointe and Ann Arbor, but they didn't understand us as well. We would try to book ourselves at clubs, and they would say, what's the name of the band? As soon as we said the name of the band, they would be like, a couple of times we even got hung up on, So, that's what it was. I think the great thing about it is that we had no idea we were creating a genre of music or a type of music. We were just trying to be hard, fast, and we just called it hard driving Detroit rock. That's what we were playing.
That's basically what he said. That's what we were trying to do. I mean, the more that they would slam the doors, you know, David would turn up his amp a little bit. I'd play a little harder on the drums, and Bob would turn up. And when the cops came, you know, we'd tell them, okay, we'll turn it down. And when they left, we turned it like way up. You know? So they would come back again and again and again and again. And my mother got tired of it, and the neighborhood got tired of it, and which is one of the things that took us out into the garage. And when we got out into the garage, we started to draw a little bit of a crowd, you know, and, you know, other things started happening besides that. Then, you know, when we started drawing the crowd, that's when David wrote the song, Keep On Knocking, or something like that. And, you know, it was just a wild time. My mother was out in the yard just trying to protect her flowers. She was serious about her flowers, and she didn't want them trampled, so we had to stop playing and protect the flowers. So, you know, it was pretty much the same way Bob said it. I mean, you know, we were not trying to create history. We was just fighting with the neighbors.
fighting to be able to still play rock and roll, just to be able to play it, you know.
That's leading into your actual songs, like Keep On Knocking and like Rock and Roll Victim. When I listened to those songs before seeing the movie, I felt like there was like a deeper meaning to those songs, like you were attacking kind of a public thing, you know, like Rock and Roll Victim, I sort of viewed it as frustration with rock and roll in general. But the movie, it seems to be like you're just like talking to your neighbors, like, you know.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, if you look at the lyrics of Rock and Roll Victim, it was like we were almost kind of talking about ourselves. I mean, we were kind of confined to this room where that was our world. I mean, you know, it was the only place where we could really feel free, and when nobody was judging us, and, you know, so we really related to that Brian Wilson song with the Beach Boys, you know, In My Room, you know, at that time. And that was like one of our, we used to really relate to that. So
basically, nobody wanted to hear it anyway, so we might as well have stayed in our room.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting, just the topic of the song seemed to have like this sort of, you know, venom that like a lot of modern punk rock has, but in the end it all just came down to we're just trying to play music and just from like all the different styles of bands you've been in and all the different styles of music you've been interested in, it's just obvious that you just love music from the get-go.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that is a big tribute, like to our family and to our mom. You know, like our dad, even though he was a Baptist minister, I mean, you know, we first really heard music during the Chess Records era. He'd bring in records by Howlin' Wolf and Chuck Berry and Etta James, and I mean, he was really big on Etta James. And my mom was really heavy into the gospel music, and I mean, she liked the country and western. I mean, the first time I ever heard of Patsy Cline was my mother had a 45 by Patsy Cline. So they encouraged a lot of different types of music. And then being in Detroit, in that melting pot of just sounds coming everywhere. You had Motown, and you had rock and roll, and you had pop music and blues music. And so, you know, we were just fortunate enough to live in Detroit during that time, and all this great music.
With all that history being made. So in the movie it said that The Who was the band that sort of convinced David that you guys should be a rock band. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah, that was
a previous thing. Yeah, that's when David went and saw. Well, see, I went and saw Alice Cooper first. Yeah, and I came running back to the room. I'm like, guys, you have to see these guys play on the floor and stuff. You know? This is the kind of reckless abandon that I wanted to have. But you know, it was kind of, you know, they could do it. They were millionaire rock stars. We couldn't do it. We were trying.
They could throw their instruments around and have new ones in there.
We couldn't do that. We you know, But the way they played, you know, the way they presented their stage show was just like, it was so new to me, and I wanted to do that. I wanted to play like that. You know, we played the James Brown, we played the funky soul stuff, but it just didn't touch us like the rock and roll did. Okay, that's the way we wanted to be. That's the way we pictured ourselves. And you know, the more people tell us, you know, you guys are doing the wrong thing, or you guys can't do this here and you can't do that here. You know, we just got more and more defiant about it, and until we had our way. You know, it was just about having our way.